In my last video, What is a Pity Party? I discussed what pity parties are and the reasons why people do them. In this video, as promised, I'm talking about how to overcome unhealthy levels of self-pity using my top 5 tried and tested tools. I'm Jo Banks. I've been a professional executive coach for almost 15 years, and I'm sharing what I know. Before I get into the content of this week's video, I just want to clarify something from the previous one. I did think that I'd clearly described the difference between unhealthy self-pity or severe self-pity and generally feeling sad and upset and angry about a particular situation. However, I've been contacted by a couple of people who were actually offended. They felt that I was attacking people when they were down. That was not, nor would it ever be my intention. So, for clarification, here's a recap on what I meant by pity party or severe self-pity. What is a pity party? In summary, a pity party is a term used to describe a situation where someone indulges in extreme, prolonged self-pity or feelings of victimization. They dwell on their problems, but without taking action to solve them, and that's the key point here. However, there comes a point when prolonged and pervasive experience of feeling sorry for yourself or embracing a sense of victimization goes beyond mere passing emotions. When this emotional state begins to dominate and seeps into every aspect of your personality, and yet you still don't take constructive steps to address your challenges, that's when we label it a pity party. In essence, it's a heightened form of extreme self-pity that goes beyond the ordinary feelings of sadness or self-doubt. People throw pity parties for various reasons, such as feeling overwhelmed by challenges, experiencing rejection or failure, or dealing with personal loss. It is a common human experience to feel down and discouraged at times, but when this feeling becomes chronic or prolonged, it can lead to a negative spiral of self-doubt and hopelessness. When someone throws a pity party, they may engage in negative self-talk and really ruminate on their problems. They may isolate themselves from others and seek out sympathy. Pity parties can be emotionally draining for the person experiencing them, as well as those around them. And while it's really normal to feel sad or upset from time to time, wallowing in self-pity is not a healthy or productive way to deal with difficult situations. It can lead to a sense of helplessness and even worsen the problem. Instead, it's important to take action and address the problem and find solutions. 5 useful tools for overcoming pity parties. Now, before I kick off with point number 1, I just want to point one thing out. This is really important. Nothing will change until you change. The quote that I use frequently that sums this up is, always do what you've always done, always get what you've always got. We keep repeating the same things over and over again and yet expect a different result. There's another term for that. I think it's insanity. As I've discussed in the previous video, you or me, we are the common denominator in all of our problems, which also means that we also have the power to solve them. So, following are some of my favorite tools for not only overcoming self-pity, but for helping you deal with almost any difficult situation. Number 1, take responsibility. Playing the blame game or feeling sorry for yourself rarely pays dividends. Taking responsibility, however, empowers you to be able to make changes necessary to resolve things and hopefully avoid it happening again in the future. I know it can be really tough when you realize that you've likely contributed to your problems and that actually you're the only one who can resolve them. In addition, it's important to note that we tend to attract the same type of negative people and negative situations repeatedly throughout our lives until we learn the lesson they're sent to teach us. I truly believe that. We can't change anything, however, unless we first take responsibility. Many of us leave situations, it could be a person or a job, only to find that we have the same relationship and the same situations happen all over again. It's just that the faces have changed. And that's because we take ourselves with us wherever we go. If we don't work on ourselves and what's going on with us, we tend to repeat the same things because we are the common denominator in all of our problems. Again, nothing changes until you do. Number 2, acknowledge your emotions using journaling. It's okay to feel sad, angry, or frustrated, all really useful human emotions that we all experience at some time or another. Acknowledging those emotions and allowing yourself to feel them and process them is really, really important, however. Things often feel much bigger when they're stuck in our heads, and we often can't see the bigger picture nor extricate ourselves from the problem while it's just stuck in our head. A great way of dealing with all of that that's going on and getting a clearer picture is by journaling. Writing down your thoughts and emotions, it's clinically proven to have beneficial effects. In fact, it's the second best thing we can do after talking about our problems out loud to somebody else. It helps you process things in a way that simply isn't possible without talking out loud. I'm going to give you some really great journal prompts for this. However, what I would say before I get onto that is physically handwriting is a lot better than typing. Many people, myself included, can touch type. And really, when we're touch typing, we're not thinking in the same way as we need to when we physically write. So grab yourself a nice journal or some good writing paper. It's another good way to kind of force yourself into or make yourself want to do it if you're going to be writing in something nice. Okay, so journal prompts. Here are some great journal prompts for acknowledging your emotions. Write down what is happening at the moment. What thoughts are you having? What emotions are you experiencing? Think about when you've come across a previous situation that's similar to the one you're going through now. It's highly likely that you will have gone through something comparable in the past. How did the previous situation conclude or resolve itself? Thinking back to how we've dealt with things previously can be really helpful because our brains almost go into overdrive, into a learned behavior, and we can panic about things unnecessarily. Our brain often sees threats where there are none. So actually sitting and thinking down and processing your emotions literally move through us. So writing them down helps that process. Number 3, reframe your thinking. As I've just said, our brains are actually designed to seek out potential threats. It's what's kept humans alive as a species for so long. However, if you're continually in a negative state, your brain will be on constant high alert. Research shows that we can perceive neutral, non threatening events and situations, and even neutral faces as potential threats when we're in a state of survival. In other words, perpetual fight, flight, freeze, or anxiety, depression, overwhelm. But when we're in that state, everything looks like a threat, even when it's not. Use reframing to analyze your negative thoughts and actively choose more positive ones. To do that, instead of focusing on everything that's going wrong, actively choose to focus on what's going well in your life. Again, got some great journal prompts, so here we go. Consider all the different ways you could view your problem. Get curious about your motivations, and if other people are involved, give some thought to what's happening with them too. Reflect on the potential subconscious gain you might be getting from not solving your situation. In other words, you might be getting attention or validation. You're finally being seen by anyone. So actually, if that's the case, there isn't any impetus to solve your problems because on a subconscious level, that attention goes away once you solve your problems. Getting clear about that, really important. Another great way to get out of what we're calling here is learned helplessness and into a position of power is to use great reframing questions. Here are some of my favorites. I must use these on a daily basis, either with myself or with my clients. So, number one, what could be good about this? Or if you're struggling with that question, ask yourself, if I wanted to see the positive in this, what would it be? There is always at least one positive in every situation, no matter how bleak it feels at the time. Next, number two, who can help me with this? There's always somebody you can tap into for some help and support. Number three, what action can I take, no matter how small? Getting into action is the best way of getting our brains to calm down and to see the issue more critically and help us come up with more solutions. So what action can I take? What would this look like if it all worked out well? I really like this one. Our brains give us more of what we think about. So using mental rehearsal, which is what that question is, what would this look like? It's encouraging you to move yourself into the future and see things working out well. When we do that, giving some thought to how we want the situation to unfold, it gives our brains something positive to work on. We use mental rehearsal or visualization is another way we often put it. In sports psychology, all of the time. It's a proven technique used by all professional sports people. It's there to enhance performance, and yet we don't seem to apply the same principle to our daily lives. Incidentally, again, I've said this in previous videos, I am not advocating just think positive or that kind of toxic positivity here, because I know that doesn't work. Our negative subconscious brain will not easily take on board a new positive way of thinking without evidence. That's why the reframing questions work. It gives our brain evidence instead of a perception of reality. I often encourage many of my clients to have a list of those reframing questions and put them on their phones. So if they're having a difficult moment, if a difficult situation arises, they have those questions there so that they can use them at any time to do a quick reframe to get themselves out of learned helplessness and back into a position of power. Number 4, create a plan, take action. When you're in a negative state, the emotional part of the brain, the amygdala, which is at the base of our brain here, takes over. That's the primitive part of the brain. It's a part of the brain that we share with all other mammals. When you see your dog go and you don't know what's going on, that's because the amygdala has sensed a threat and the dog has stopped. That amygdala can often take over. Therefore, it's really critical to get the critical thinking part of our brain, which is in the front here, the problem-solving part, our prefrontal cortex, back online. So that's running the show, not the emotions. To do this, again, sit down with a piece of paper, not your phone, or a journal, and write down all the actions you could take to solve the problem. Let them flow, no matter how outlandish or impossible they might seem. Avoid editing at this point. Once you have your list, go back and decide on one action you're committed to taking. It doesn't have to be a big one. Take that action immediately, which communicates to your subconscious that you're serious about finding a solution. If that action doesn't work, try another. And if that doesn't work, try another. And if that doesn't work, try another. I think you get the idea. You may find that just the process of thinking differently and taking action powerfully propels you forward and gets you out of that learned helplessness. Number 5, share with someone you trust. Ask a friend, colleague, family member for their opinion or guidance. However, please be careful with this one. Before you share or even overshare, ask yourself these questions. Am I seeking validation that I'm in the right, even when I know deep down that I might be wrong? Do I just want attention and to be seen, heard, or acknowledged? Do I want somebody to make me feel better, but I don't intend doing anything really about my situation? If they give me advice, am I willing to consider taking it? Finally, will this person keep my confidence? Also, be aware that your negativity will impact the other person. So if you're going to speak to someone else, be mindful of what's going on in their life. Often people will overshare without a second thought about what the other person may be going through. If you genuinely wish to seek advice and guidance from others, remember that they will typically view your problem through their lens. Therefore, their thoughts and recommendations may not be suitable for you. To overcome this bias, it might be worth talking to a professional coach, like me, or a therapist to help you work through your problems and establish a workable plan. The wrap up. Will the tools above stop bad things from happening? Heck no. However, they will allow you to use critical thinking, that part of your brain at the front there, to help you find solutions rather than being hijacked by your emotions and repeating those old outdated programs that you probably learnt in childhood. So, by taking responsibility, acknowledging your emotions, reframing your thinking, creating a plan and taking action, sharing with someone you trust, we can overcome our pity party tendencies and create a more fulfilling life for ourselves. How do I know that these things work? Well, as I said in the previous video, I was very heavily programmed for negativity by my parents. However, once I learned that I was the common denominator of all of my problems and I started to use these tools, I managed to completely change the trajectory of my life. I still use all of these tools and many others on a daily basis. For me, they're gym for my brain. In other words, you don't go to the gym once and you're fit for the rest of your life. This stuff works the same way too. Doing the work is no different than that. Lastly, And this is often a tough one to hear, but sometimes we need a bit of tough love. No one is coming to save you. Be the hero of your own story. What next? If you haven't watched the previous video, What is a Pity Party? I'll leave the link at the end of this video. If you enjoyed this one, please like, comment, and subscribe. Subscribing doesn't cost a thing and helps YouTube know that this content is interesting. So hopefully they'll push it out to more people. At the moment, I'm uploading at least twice a week and will do so for the foreseeable future. So please support the channel and hit that notification button so that you don't miss a thing. As always, thanks for watching. Thank you to everybody who watches until the very end and enjoy the rest of your day.